Sleepyhead.
I'm not letting you go to work today.
Wait, what?
Everybody, listen up.
Welcome to The Drive.
Morning, morning, morning.
You're gonna talk.
Get on the phone at 339-1140.
Pretty awesome, huh?
Jump in on our text line at 441140.
Everyone is talking about it. You must know that.
The Drive starts now.
Chris Biderman of the Sacramento Bee will join us in a few minutes. Final hour of the program, Kings Knicks tonight. My daughter's doing the national anthem I mentioned earlier with her class band. A little nervous about tonight's game, not going to lie. Today is National Snack Food Day, our drive question of the day all over the social medias. What is your go-to snack food? We have defined snack food, Kyle helped us with this one, as something you can just grab and eat. There's no preparation here. If he said chips and salsa, why? You can grab some chips, salsa, you're done. That's a snack food. Bacon wrapped shrimp, not a snack food. We're not talking about appetizers.
I think can I amend mine a little bit?
Fine, go ahead. I don't care.
Or amend the. I think toast counts.
Toast is stupid, but I'm shocked.
But like, does that no? But like, I'm saying
toast counts as a snack food.
Yeah, like if you do like peanut butter toast.
Yeah, that's fine. There's a little bit of preparation there, but it's a snack.
Okay.
How do you feel about egg and ramen, Dave?
So that's a dinner. Or that's a meal.
Right. I don't know if that's a snack, but I have a ton of packs of ramen at my house, and it's a great thing. It's a thing my wife or my kids and I will eat all the time. If you've never scrambled an egg in ramen, you boil the water, you put the ramen, you put the packet in there, you get all that done, and then you keep it boiling, and you swirl it, and you very slowly pour a scrambled egg in there, very, very slowly, just so it trickles, and it makes egg drop ramen. I like to put sliced jalapenos in there for a little spice.
You know what I don't like?
What's that?
American cheese on my ramen. Right now, we're giving away a pair of tickets to see Steve Miller Band and very special guest Marty Stewart and his fabulous Superlatives at the Lake Tahoe Outdoor Arena at Harvey's on Saturday, August 24th. For tickets and more information, visit khtk.com. Going to grab a winner and call Chris Biderman.
Also, Kyle, today is National Pound Cake Day, so shout out to Sean Salisbury, the professor of pound cake. While Kyle is calling Chris Biderman, and can we find out, Kyle, do we know, is Chris still out there? I know he was out there. He got back yesterday. Okay. We have oftentimes during the combine every year reported to you or shared with you some of the strangest questions. Now, they say that a lot of times these prospective players are asked questions designed to throw them off, designed psychologically to put them in a weird spot and see how they'll react. Well, Texas cornerback prospect Chris Boyd might have broken the record for strangest reported question for the week. Chris Boyd was asked by an unnamed team, and I'm just going to say this medically. Chris Boyd was asked by an NFL team if he still has both his testicles. It's a real question he was asked. North Carolina Charlotte guard Nate Davis said one team official, instead of shaking Davis's outstretched hand at the start of the meeting, punched Davis in the chest and said, quote, "You have a soft chest." Davis responded, "Okay," and they just kept going. Punter Michael Dixon said last year the Seahawks challenged him to a staring contest. This year it was Lonnie Johnson challenged to a 15-second staring contest by the Seattle Seahawks. Okay. Joining us right now from the Sacramento Bee, you can go to sacbee.com, and I believe I read yesterday, 92% off your first month's subscription. Yeah, you know what? You pay a couple dollars, literally, and you get a ton of phenomenal journalism for less than a drink you might buy at the bar. And we, of course, talk to people like Matt Barrows, Marcos Bertone, run by Scott Labar, who I've known since I was 11. He's a good guy. Ryan Lillis, Tony Bijak, Dale Kasler. How could you not support the Sacramento Bee and our friend Chris Biderman, fresh back from the Combines out in the Midwest? Hello, Chris. It's Dave. How are you?
Hey, Dave. How's it going? Thanks for the plug.
Say that again?
I said thanks for the plug.
Hey, man, we times they are changing. Ways that we consume media are changing, and I am all for good journalism, which you guys provide plenty of that. We were just going over, Chris, some of these weird-ass questions being asked at the combine. Do you have both testicles? Can we have a staring contest? Punching guys in the chest instead of shaking their hands.
So we're gonna hit you with some of those questions right now.
Chris.
Hey, what better way to start your week on a Monday morning, right?
Of course, nice punch in the chest. I know that we've heard it all before. This is why they do it. It's a psychological thing. You're trying to throw these guys off, blah, blah, blah. But I mean this with all respect to our men and women in uniform, but I feel like this isn't the military. You're not in a war zone. You're playing football. And to the best of my knowledge, Chris, they're not doing this in basketball or baseball. Why do you think they continue to ask these weird questions in the NFL Combine?
I think as time has gone on, these prospects have become so polished when it comes to interviews and answering the typical questions that you would get, whether, that's training via agents. I think, maybe some of these coaches or talent evaluators just kind of want to see how these guys react when they're a little bit uncomfortable. I don't think, with the staring contest thing, I don't know if Pete Carroll would really do that with a straight face. Really thinking that, this is going to make or break the interview. I could see Pete Carroll, from what little I've known about him and our interactions that we've had as beat reporters from this side of it, it just seems like that's something coaches might do to maybe loosen up the situation a little bit, maybe take some of the stiffness out of the room. I'm not entirely sure. But, yeah, I mean, when you have 60 interviews and you're doing this over a week, I think even on the coach's side, you would want to find ways to mix it up a little bit. So I know a lot of people talk about this kind of stuff, but and it definitely is weird. And I'm sure there's some people who do that stuff throughout the league that take it very seriously and really, wonder how people react to those situations. But I think there's also an element of just kind of mixing it up and throwing, curveballs at these prospects. So it's not so stuffy and all the, the cliched answers that you would get about giving 110% and football being the most important thing in your life and all that type of stuff.
Want to keep on the interviews here. The 49ers interviewed, I think, 5 receivers, I think I counted, that got reported. Is that something that you expect them to really prioritize in this year's draft? Yeah,
absolutely. And Ridley from Georgia basically said it. His main takeaway from his interview with the 49ers was that they told him they were looking for a receiver. So, Kyle, I know you and I have talked about it a lot on the Candlestick Chronicles podcast.
Ooh.
Sorry for the plug.
Yeah,
but the Niners sitting at number 36 in the second round, that looks like it's going to be a spot where they could potentially find a starting receiver. So it's pretty clear after moving on from Pierre Garçon, they need a receiver atop the depth chart, and I'm not sure they're going to pull off this trade for Odell Beckham Jr. that's gained a little bit of steam in media reports over the last week or so. But it definitely seems like they're going to target a receiver, and Kyle Shanahan said as much in speaking with us. He said, he wants to bring in guys that push guys like Dante Pettis and Marquise Goodwin and Kendrick Bourne either to be better through competition or just to overtake him, because it's clear the 49ers need to upgrade that unit if they want to get the offense to the next level and really consider themselves playoff contenders.
Chris Biderman joins us from the Sacramento Bee. Chris, does it really come down to the Niners are hoping Arizona does something silly and pass on Nick Bosa? Are we looking at Bosa, maybe a Josh Allen, Williams out of Alabama, or Rashawn Gary? Is it pretty safe to say it's probably one of those 4 guys will be their pick?
Yeah, I think so. And it really sort of solidified to me when talking to John Lynch about it. Both Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch said that the Niners were going to change the physical profile of their defensive ends. And so, you guys like Cassius Marsh and Dakota Watson, they're not the biggest, most powerful guys. And John Lynch said the Niners are going to use more wide 9 formations, and really the profile that they're looking for with those defensive ends is somebody with power. And so the first thing I thought of was, of course, Nick Bosa, because I think he's widely regarded as the most powerful defensive end prospect among a pretty talented group of edge rushers. And you look at a lot of those guys like Montez Sweat, who tested really well, Brian Burns, who also tested really well, and Josh Allen. Those guys aren't the same type of powerful players that Nick Bosa is. I think Bosa is really, with John Lynch saying that, I think it sort of emerged that Bosa should be the favorite for that number 2 overall pick, because all the buzz coming out of the combine was that Kyler Murray is going to go first overall. And I think it would absolutely make sense for the Cardinals, because if you're going to hire Cliff Kingsbury to be your coach, you might as well get the quarterback that really maximizes his offense, not bring a holdover back in Josh Rosen, who might not be a perfect fit, and then you're sort of left in this awkward quarterback purgatory. I think it would be smart of the Cardinals to take Murray, and then if you're the 49ers, you got to be jumping for joy at the fact that you finally get the edge rusher that you've been looking for since Aldon Smith was a productive player in 2013, 2014.
So you mentioned Kyler Murray and the prospect of him going number 1. That's something that you're buying. It isn't just a massive smokescreen by the Cardinals to try and up that value of the number 1 pick.
Yeah, it is something I'm buying. Like I said, because it's Cliff Kingsbury, because of the history he has with Kyler Murray, because of the Cardinals really needing to sort of infuse some energy into the organization. If they want to compete with the Rams, you have to look at Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury's offense as their best shot to really, compete for the division crown. If it gets fully maximized, and we don't know how well Cliff Kingsbury can get somebody like Josh Rosen to adapt to his offense, or if Kingsbury can adapt his offense to his quarterback. And I think if they bring in Kyler Murray, then it's really the best case scenario for the Cardinals, just in terms of getting the offense off the ground and being dynamic in the way that they would want to be to compete for an NFC West title. So to me, it makes a ton of sense. All the buzz, coming out of Indy would indicate that's true too. I think, you could look at the league rules with the emphasis on player safety and keeping quarterbacks out of harm's way. I think it makes sense for Murray, just given that he's not the biggest guy. And obviously people talk about Russell Wilson in Seattle and things like that. I just think it makes plenty of sense, and it sounds like everyone else throughout the league does. And, when you have the number 1 overall pick, I don't know what creating a smokescreen really creates anyway. Like, it's not like anyone can jump you. You're going to take the number 1 player, any player you want. So they could announce it right now, and I don't really know how it would hurt them from that standpoint. So, I am buying it, and it makes plenty of sense from my end. And we'll have to see. I mean, a lot can change in 2 months, but I think that's where we're going, because, you remember last year, no one really thought Baker Mayfield was going to end up being the number 1 overall pick, and then momentum grew in that direction, and then he ended up going first overall. And I think, he's not the same quarterback as Kyler Murray. He's a little bit different, but I think there's some similarities, particularly coming out of that Lincoln Riley offense at Oklahoma, and I could see it happening again this year.
So you mentioned that Nick Bosa, you think, is the guy for the Niners that they're circling and targeting. If he does fall to number 2, do you think that impacts the 49ers' willingness to engage in trade talks for Odell Beckham Jr.? Do you think essentially they would prioritize Bosa over Odell Beckham?
Well, that's a really great question, and I'm not sure what they're doing. They're playing things pretty close to the vest, obviously, but I can say when John Lynch was asked about the reports surrounding Odell Beckham Jr. and the Niners trading for it, it was a pretty casual conversation that we were having, and Lynch sort of clammed up a little bit and said, I'm not allowed to talk about any players on other rosters, and this was after talking about Antonio Brown, and he was a little bit more casual in having that conversation, obviously saying something similar. But I do think the 49ers are interested. I do think there's validity to those reports. But it's going to come down to whether or not if Bosa's on the board, I would imagine they take him, because if you look at the real contenders over the last few years, they have just stars on defense. And the 49ers really only have one star on defense right now in the prime of his career. And if they want to be legit contenders going forward, I think they need to add more stars on defense. And we've seen Kyle Shanahan manufacture offense with less than elite players. And that's not to say I don't think Odell Beckham Jr. would be a good fit. The 49ers are going to have to weigh Shanahan's ability to get good production from lesser-known players versus investing premium resources on defense, which I think they need if they want to compete for division titles going forward. So if I'm making the decision, I'm probably leaning more towards Bosa, but I think it would make plenty of sense for them to have a contingency plan in case Bosa went first overall, to then maybe get a trade package together that could involve Odell Beckham Jr. So you're still coming out of that number 2 pick with an elite player like OBJ, and then if you move back in the draft, you could capitalize on the really deep edge class in the first round and maybe get a guy who isn't quite Nick Bosa's caliber, but still solves a significant need on defense, and allows you to continue building on that side of the ball.
And Chris, if they were to do that, if they were to go after Odell Beckham Jr. and trade back in the draft or somehow move that around and acquire him, just for fun, I know a lot of Niner fans are wondering the same thing. Would that effectively kill talks on Antonio Brown, or is there an outside shot they come back next year with Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham Jr. lined up for Jimmy Garoppolo?
I would be shocked. I'm trying to think of the way to describe how shocked I would be if they landed Odell Beckham and Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
I don't think it's happening. I think this team is very cognizant of how it uses its resources and is going to try to stay balanced and not invest too much money in a single position group. I kind of look at it as an either or scenario. I don't see how they would have the assets and want to make that type of investment. You're looking at probably $35 million in 2 receivers. And maybe you move on from Marquise Goodwin because you signed him to a 3-year deal last offseason. I don't know. I just don't really see how that could work. Although the Niners would be a very popular team on Madden if that were the case.
You mentioned a possible trade back from number 2. So let's say that trade does come to fruition, and they let's just for the sake of argument throw out. The Giants get the number 2 pick. The Niners get Odell Beckham in the number 6. Who might the Niners target? Who stood out to you in Indianapolis among this deep edge class that they might want to look at 6?
Definitely Brian Burns from Florida State. I know there are questions about his weight going into the combine and his ability to convert speed to power. He gained some 15 or 20 pounds since playing his final season in college, and looks like just athletically the exact type of player you would want coming off the edge. And he might be a little bit raw in terms of overall pass rushing, but I think if he builds his strength and continues to add weight to his frame, he could be a really good Pro Bowl type player, somebody who could give the 49ers double-digit sacks. Montez Sweat from Mississippi State, obviously running that record-breaking 4.140 is ridiculous. And he's faster than Odell Beckham Jr. His 40 time, which is crazy to think about it at 260 pounds or whatever he weighed in. But I think there are questions about his flexibility, his overall agility coming off the edge. It's being a pass rusher is obviously a lot more than straight line speed. So I'm curious to see how he translates to the next level. Obviously, his workout numbers are really, really impressive, and a lot of those numbers typically do translate to success in the NFL. But in terms of power, like John Lynch mentioned at the Combine, and presumably talking about Nick Bosa, I'm not sure that Burns or Sweat have the same level of power, and maybe Josh Allen might. He threw up 28 reps on the bench press, which is just one fewer than Bosa. So maybe he has more of that profile, but he's also a little bit, he's more of an outside linebacker type. The 49ers could use a Sam linebacker too. So they could justify the Josh Allen pick if he were to fall to, say, 6, like you mentioned. But I think Allen, Burns, and Sweat would probably be the top 3 guys. Maybe Cleveland Farrell. He didn't do the running drills at the Combine. I'm not sure he's quite the same athlete as those guys. He might be more of a mid-first round pick type prospect. But also Devin White, the linebacker from LSU. Obviously the 49ers losing Reuben Foster last year creates a void at linebacker. and they can certainly use a starter there. It's my personal feeling that they're more likely to invest in a free agent veteran for linebacker to play next to Fred Warner. But if not, Devin White, I think he ran a 4.40, one of the fastest times, if not the fastest time for a linebacker at the combine in history. I think he would make plenty of sense because they do need star talent on defense, and I think White is probably the best inside linebacker in this draft.
That's Chris Biderman. We have 30 seconds, but let me just ask you a random one going deep. Somebody on the text line wanted me to ask you about Jason Browning. I'm going to make an executive decision and assume he's talking about Folsom's Jake Browning from Washington. Not on a lot of big boards. Is kid going to get drafted?
You know what? I wish I could tell you. I've spent so much time focusing on the 49ers that I can tell you that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan basically said they're not in the quarterback market,
Gotcha.
and they didn't even interview with quarterbacks at the combine. So probably not going to come to the 49ers unless he goes undrafted and they want to bring in another undrafted rookie, which might end up leading to maybe they trade Nick Mullins or C.J. Beathard at some point this offseason. Probably not early in the offseason, but that could happen maybe towards training camp because they're going to have to wait on Jimmy Garoppolo to get healthy, and so Beathard and Mullins will be getting all the reps in the spring. But sorry, I don't have more on Jake Browning. I do know he's probably a late-round prospect, or he could go undrafted depending on how things shake out.
Oh, I completely got you there. We'll have to shake that out, like you said, at the draft itself. You can read Chris Biderman all over the place at sacbee.com. Just hit that, go right to sports, and you got all the Niners laid out. Clean look on the website, too. They've changed that up. They're doing a fantastic job. And you get a chance, go to the top right-hand corner, hit subscribe, and you'll get the best journalism in the Sacramento area. Chris, we appreciate your time. Welcome back home. We'll talk to you soon.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you. Take care. That is Chris Biderman of the Sacramento Bee. You know, Kyle asked that question, I think, on purpose. I think you asked that question on purpose because you knew who he was going to come back with.
What are you talking about?
You know exactly what I'm talking about. Brian Burns had such a fantastic combine out of Florida State University. Now,
him weighing in at 249.
I want to be really clear. I was jumping up and down and screaming about Derwin James last year. This is not – Brian Burns is not going to be Derwin James, obviously. Play different positions, but I don't have – Derwin James to me was a lock to be a Pro Bowler. Brian Burns – I'll tell you, Brian Burns, again, different positions, but if I'm going Florida State guys I'm hyped over, Brian Burns, that same hype kind of matched Mario Edwards Jr. with me. And I still maintain to this day, Mario Edwards was a hell of a talented kid. And he just ran into some issues that presented mostly injuries that prevented him from hitting that potential. Brian Burns is a guy that could be better than Mario Edwards Jr. could have been. And I mean that as a total compliment. So I would be tickled if the Niners traded back and ended up grabbing him. Odell Beckham Jr., look at you. I say they go all out. Get Beckham, get OBJ and Antonio Brown. Say, welcome back, Jimmy Garoppolo. Here's two guys that can spread the field a little bit. Screw it. Who cares? When we get back, the Kareem memorabilia we told you about last week sold. We'll give you details on that. We'll get back to these strange combine questions. And we'll also revisit the question of the day. What's your go-to snack food on National Snack Food Day? Kings and Knicks tonight, too. We got to preview that right here on The Drive. Big half hour left. Sports 1140 KHTK.
It's The Drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Kings versus Knicks tonight. The start of what we believe needs to be an 8-2 stretch. If they're going to make the playoffs. Kyle's going to unlock the phones here in a second. You can call us at 1-800-920-1140. 339-1140 on the Fire Wings hotline. 21 different flavors to choose from. Firewings.com. Just wing it.
I already unlocked the phones. They are unlocked.
Well, excuse me.
Yeah. Hey, it's time to call real quick. It's time to call Sierra Pacific. Mm-hmm. For this winter's best deal on a new furnace. Call Sierra Pacific now, 800-551-3040. Hey, I found something out during the break that's a little bit behind the curtain Do you want me to say this off air or on?
Well, let's say it on air, and since we're going behind the curtain, let me just remind a lot of people have been tweeting and texting. It appears that the Android version of our KHTK app isn't working. iPhone users have been having success. Android users have been having issues. Our guys are on it. But in the meantime, if you can't listen to the show via the app, just go to khtk.com, and you can stream the show from there. And it also just occurred to me, if you can't listen to the show on the app right now, you probably didn't hear what I just said. So that was pointless. Kyle, back to you.
Nice, dude.
Thanks.
So I looked down just now, and something that we haven't had in quite a while showed up on our log here that I wasn't prepared for, but I did some quick research.
Oh, I think I know where we're going.
And
It's time for the Coors Light Cold Hard Fact of the Day. Here's Kyle Madsen.
Hey, Kyle Madsen, the Kyle Madsen Sports Desk with today's Coors Light Cold Hard Fact of the Day. Kyle.
I've been talking about Nick Foles in my update all morning. Well, if he does in fact leave the Eagles, which he's going to, they didn't franchise tag him. He's an unrestricted free agent. So he can go sign wherever he wants. He's expected to sign with the Jaguars. He would be the sixth player to win a Super Bowl, sixth quarterback to win a Super Bowl and change teams later in his career.
Really?
Peyton Manning.
Oh, 6 players that have won a Super Bowl and switched teams later in their career.
Yeah, you have Nick Foles and Peyton Manning.
Okay, Nick Foles, Peyton Manning, Joe Montana.
Yep.
Trent Dilfer?
Nope.
Steve Young?
No. Wait, hang on. Trent Dilfer should definitely be on this list.
Yeah. Who's the rest of the list? Because we got stuff to do.
Sorry. Won Super Bowl MVP.
Okay.
Okay, there it is.
Give me the rest of the list.
Kurt Warner, Rams to Giants.
Yeah.
Later the Cardinals. Mark Rippon. Went from Washington to the Browns. I would not have gotten that one. And Joe Namath played for the Rams.
That's right.
Winning with the Jets.
Yeah, that was weird. Also, Coors Light Cold Hard supplemental fact. Kyle, it's physically impossible for you to lick your elbow.
Yep.
Just want to let you know.
I'm not going to try because I've already done that.
Did you also know that your foot is the exact size between your elbow and your top of your wrist? Did you know that?
What is?
Your foot. Your foot is the exact size from the middle of your elbow, like the front of your elbow, to your wrist. If you lay your foot on there.
There's no way that's true. My foot is not that big.
Try it. Can you do that? I know it's a little stretchy for you, but I'm just saying go home and try it. How about that? I won't put you on the spot now because that would look hilarious on the live feed.
I'll have to cut my arm off, lay it on the floor.
Did Joe Flacco win the MVP for the Ravens in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, he did.
And he's a Bronco now.
He is.
How about that, Kyle? How about that? Snack food. Today is National Snack Food Day. Kyle came up with the idea of us doing I suggested we do a snack food bracket later this month since it's March. Kyle came up with the idea of calling it a snack it, which, fine, we can call it that against my protests. I was talking to some of the guys downstairs about setting this up. They had a really good suggestion, Kyle, and that is whether it's a 32 or 64 food bracket, we should have all the foods in studio.
Oh, strong.
And because he said some of them maybe we haven't had in a while or aren't going to know. These all have to be things that basically you can fit in a box or pull right out of a fridge. These are not prepared items.
Okay, now, is this something that we want to bribe companies?
No.
If you supply us
with
your snack.
No, we want to make these straight up. Straight up. No.
Okay, well, I will take free snacks at 280 Commerce.
Yeah, but I don't want to end up with, because this is what happens.
This is not. Then I will not take part in the ranking.
No,
Dave, honest, I've been angling for free snacks since I started on the show a year and a half ago.
And I'm a fan of free snacks, but I don't want to end up where we get to the end of our snack it, let's say at the end of May, and it's like, oh my gosh, look, what's up? Hey, what an upset. Smith's fried apple crisps are the best snack as voted by you. Meanwhile, we have like boxes of Smith's fried apple crisps everywhere. No, this got to be on the up and up, dude.
Your Snack It, brought to you by Goldfish.
Shockingly, number one, Goldfish. You can answer that question. I believe that's up on all the social medias that we have, the Drive 1140 on Twitter, etc. Yes,
Can
Jay.
I ask a question in regards to the Snack It?
You can ask anything you want ever.
So, are we doing like generic, like for instance, chips has its own, or are we going like Doritos, Cheetos? How are we doing this?
That's a real good question.
That's strong. See, Cheetos are not chips, so
They're Cheetos.
right, they're a puff.
But is a Ruffle the same as a Tostito?
See, this is what I
No,
mean.
because that's a potato chip versus
Tortilla chips. So you need to. So not only do we have possible definitions
Man.
of individual
Yeah,
chips.
I think you have to go individual because like a Goldfish is just like a baked cracker essentially. Like it's not his own. It's just a bake. It and a Cheez-It would fall in the same.
Ugh. So any vote for a Cheez-It's a vote for a Goldfish?
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that.
That's just crackers to me. Like
But that's why you individualize it, because a Dorito is technically a tortilla chip.
I almost think you got to go with the brand name.
me too.
Yeah.
I really think you
I think
do.
so too.
Now,
okay, now, are we going
We're
because
go-
we
we're
you
doing
could
the
do a
same
whole
thing here.
Dorito bracket?
I was just going to say we're doing a whole thing here.
Yeah.
No, I think you have to stop it at that. So Dorito means any type of Dorito. Popcorn means any type of popcorn.
Right, and that's caramel corn,
Caramel corn,
cheese
kettle
corn, yeah.
buttered, movie theater popcorn. Yeah, I think you have to stop it, but I think you can go, if you want to go brand name, that's fine. Because, for example, I said my go-to snack food, if I could have one for the rest of my life, is probably Smokehouse Almonds. But if I'm being specific, it's Blue Diamond Smokehouse Almonds. I have tried other Smokehouse Almonds, and they're cheeks. They're just cheeks.
If you give me unlimited access to water, I could eat Blue Diamond Smokehouse almonds all day.
Right. But you'd rather have chips and salsa.
Yeah.
Okay. Which you could eat all week. Marty from Philly says those black pepper chips are straight up addictive. Marty and I generally disagree on everything. If Marty's referring to the kettle chips that are
dude.
black pepper,
A plus.
that they're those what are they? What's the brand? They're in the brown bag.
Aren't they literally called Kettle Brand?
Is it kettle chips? And it's the because they are potato-y.
Kettle
Yeah.
is the brand, I believe.
Yeah,
I think
you're
they're
right.
Kettle Brand kettle
th-
chips.
Those black pepper. If you like black pepper, and if you've seen pictures of my Loco Moco, you know I love black pepper.
I'm sending this segment to all of our AEs.
Cheetos and Goldfish are not in the same category. And this is a great point. If we're going over number one seeds, and we'll take a break on this from the 209, if you guys are going to do a snack bracket, then the number one seed obviously has to be a shirtless Damian Barling. And I completely agree with that. It has to be number one. I mean,
Very strong lock.
if you haven't seen that picture. What's on tap is next. You guys know what's on tap tonight. We'll get into it next. Kings, Sports 1140 KHTK.
It's the end of the show, but it's the start of your workday. For a cold one, it's What's on Tap. Here's What's on Tap.
What's on tap? Brought to you by. Same bit every day, and Kyle
Snacks.
always pauses. Snacks. It would just suck going meal to meal. They even say it's healthier to eat a little more times per day than giant meals a few times a day. I was also stopped by the lovely and talented Bobby, the head of our promotions downstairs, Kyle, who said they now have a specific program within our KHTK, our all-new KHTK.com, that can set up any brackets we want, voting, timing. It's super simple. He said, all I need from you, how many teams are you going to do? You're going to do 16, 32, 64? So we may have to have ourselves, it's one of my favorite, it's actually the best part of the bracket, much like for fantasy football drafts. The draft is the best part of the season. I always think making the bracket is the most fun. Even more fun than seeing who advances. So, yeah, we will do a drive snack it for the month of March, where we will be laying out all the different teams, which are all the different foods. The toughest part will be seeding them, but it's going to be seeding and eating. That's the name of this bracket, so stay tuned for that. We have a lot of work to do. That might actually be an overdrive, Kyle. Kings in action tonight versus the New York Knickerbockers. The Knicks are not good. The Kings are 500. This is where the schedule opens up a bit. And yes, they have the Boston Celtics home and away. Yes, they're at Philadelphia. They got to steal one of those three. And they got to beat New York tonight. They got to win in New York on Saturday. They got to beat the Wizards on Monday. They're playing at Boston and at Philadelphia back-to-back next Thursday or Friday. That's going to be a tough call. But if the Kings lose to Boston tonight, for example, I'm looking at that Thursday Boston game as one they've got to win. They've got to split with Boston. They've got to steal one of those three of Boston, road and home, and Philly. And then they have to go 4-0 when they get back, which is Chicago, Brooklyn, Dallas, and Phoenix at home before they take off for the Lakers. That's a second game of a back-to-back. Then they go to Dallas, New Orleans, Houston, San Antonio. So this is where the schedule opens up a little bit. They should be able to squeeze in some wins. As of right now, they have lost 5 of 6 with the one win coming in Oklahoma City. This is exactly what we wanted out of that stretch. I think we were all realistically hoping in this little 6-game stretch for like a 2-4 or maybe even a 3-3. 1-5 definitely puts them behind the 8 ball a little bit. It will also be very interesting to see who Dave Yeager throws out in the starting lineup tonight, as he's been rotating that around. We haven't had a chance to be on since Friday, so I do want to take a moment. It becomes very difficult when you see narratives, and we've talked about narratives, especially in Kings conversations on social media, whether it be Facebook pages, message boards, which I count as social media in a sense, or Twitter. And when you pigeonhole people and their opinions, I think it becomes an issue. For example, last year I was very negative on this team, so I was a negative guy. This year I'm very positive on this team. I'm a positive guy now. No, it's what's out there. There's many reasons to be positive this year, just as there were many reasons to be negative last year. And one of the things we've consistently talked about since before the season started was Willie Cauley-Stein on this show. I don't believe Willie will be back unless he decides to take some sort of a massive cut to what we think he will, unless he signs, if he wants to sign a 3-year, $24 million deal, maybe even 3-year, $30 million deal. Okay, if that ends up happening in July, I can see that. I think Willie Cauley-Stein, and if you look at everything he has said to date, it would be shocking if he didn't simply tell his agent, talk to every team, and whichever team gives us the highest dollar amount, that's the one we're taking. I don't think Sac's getting any hometown discounts here. And we've had issues with Willie Cauley-Stein's play quite a bit, too. And how he comes and goes. It seems like he's there one night and gone the next. But I'll tell you, I will take Friday's performance from Willie every game this year for the rest of the season. If they get that out of Willie Cauley-Stein every single game, that doesn't mean anyone's turned around on Willie and thinks he's the best player in the world. That doesn't mean Willie didn't have issues that night either. That means if Willie Cauley-Stein can play 31 minutes and score 16 points, pull down 12 rebounds, have 4 blocks, 1 turnover, just 2 fouls on 7 of 11 shooting, I'll take that out of him. 16, 12, and 4 blocks, gimme. We said before Friday's game, if the Kings have any chance of making the playoffs, I think Willie Cauley-Stein has to be the guy to step up because he's going to have the most opportunity to step up. And that certainly doesn't mean that Bogey or Buddy or Harrison Barnes or De'Aaron Fox or whoever doesn't have to step up or Nemanja Bjelica. But Willie Cauley-Stein's a guy that's really going to have to step up. I also do find it curious, too, how personal narratives also rate into how a lot of us grade players. Because Willie Cauley-Stein, I think, of all the players on the team this year, maybe with the exception of Justin Jackson, who's gone now, has taken the most crap, and a lot of it's deservedly so. But I would ask Kings fans this. if you really take emotion out of the equation, if you really take who you like and don't like as a player or how you think you know them as a person out of the equation, the biggest weak spot on the Sacramento Kings over the last month as far as what we're used to seeing out of them versus what we're getting out of them is Bogdan Bogdanović. And Bogdan skips a lot of criticism. Now, listen, I'm not advocating that everybody start ripping Bogdan. We all love Bogey, or most of us do, I think. And it's not like getting on his case is going to help matters. I'm saying when you're discussing it with fellow fans, maybe the next time it's time to rip Willie. We look at what Bogey's been doing. Now, Bogey had 28 points versus Milwaukee. That was definitely a bright spot. But he was 3 of 15 versus the Clippers, 3 of 13 versus Minnesota, 5 of 13 at Denver, 3 of 10 at San Antonio, 3 of 12 at Philadelphia. He shot 39.8% in the month of March, and in the month of February, and he started out March at a 20% clip. So I don't say that as much to encourage people to be upset with Bogey. Let's just say, look, be fair. For Willie, he had a great game Friday night. Wasn't perfect. From the 916, when the Kings play the Lakers, it will be their third time out of 4 games that it will be the second of a back-to-back. It's very true. From the 916, what's your opinion on the lineup changes? Why so many lately? I get the Bagley injury, but why changing? Why are you changing other things right now? It's a fair question. I think when you come out of the All-Star break, a lot of coaches will then do some final tinkerings for the stretch. And I don't know if this is how it would have gone, but I just kind of expect, had Marvin Bagley not been hurt, that coach was probably going to be starting Marvin Bagley for the remainder of the year. Obviously, starting Marvin Bagley a few games ago had nothing to do with that, with him being injured. But now when he comes back here, and I imagine we've said this before, he will likely come back, we think, the first game of that road trip, or excuse me, that homestand, which is, let me find the date for you guys.
I think it's the Chicago Bulls.
It is the Bulls, and that's Sunday, March 17th. So that's 2 weeks from yesterday is when we're seeing, that's what we're guessing.
St. Patrick's Day.
Is it? Oh, it is, isn't it? I also want to remind you, speaking of St. Patrick's Day, we will not be in Mesa, Arizona for St. Patrick's Day.
We won't.
But we will be there next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, broadcasting to you live from Hohokam Park in Mesa, Arizona, talking to all kinds of Oakland athletics, their managers, their broadcasters, and, of course, their players. And it will be a tough week for Kyle.
Why is that?
Because you hate the A's.
I do. I'm not a fan.
I'm going to have fun. You'll just have to be a professional, Kyle.
It's time to call Sierra Pacific for this winter's best deal on a new furnace. Call Sierra Pacific now, 800-551-3040.
You ever been in a staring contest? I had to break it off. You won that one. That was so stupid, and it only affected the people watching.
So dumb.
All right. Our thanks to Chris Biderman of the Sacramento Bee. Jay Marshall doing a wonderful job on the video behind the scenes. I thought he did good. Okay, wow, shade thrown. And Kyle Madsen did his thing. He did have a good question crown for the day, but, you know, there's a guy you do a podcast with, so.
I told him to say.
You actually, yeah.
I didn't.
I figured you did. We'll continue the conversation off the air at
Candlestick
the
Chronicles
Facebook page, The Drive, also The Drive 1140 on Twitter. For all those guys, Jim Rome is next. We'll see you tomorrow and tonight at the Kings game. Right here on Sports 1140 KHTK. Bye-bye now.